232, 17 March 1942 December 1942, 232, Sobibor Lublin District, 231, 170,618,238,900, 233, Stationary Gascomber, Engine Exhaust, 231, late 1941 or March 1942, 234, May 1942 October 1942, 234, Treblinka Warsaw District, 231, 780,863,951,800, 233, Stationary Gascomber, Engine Exhaust, 231, April 1942, 231, 23 July 1942 October 1943, 231, Auschwitz-Birkenau East Upper Silesia, 231, 900,000,000,000,000, 231, Stationary Gascomber Hydrogen Cyanide, 231, September 1941, built as P.O.Camp, 212, 231, February 1942 October 1944, 231, Liquidation of the ghettos in Poland. See caption. Cumulative murders of Jews from General Governorate at Belzec Sobibor and Treblinka from January 1942 to February 1943. Plans to kill most of the Jews in the General Governorate were affected by various goals of the SS, military, and civil administration to reduce the amount of food consumed by Jews, enable a slight increase in rations to non-Jewish Poles, and combat black market. 235. In March 1942, killings began in Belzec targeting Jews from Lublin who were not capable of work. Thai's action reportedly reduced the black market and was deemed a success to be replicated elsewhere. 236, 237. By mid-1942, Nazi leaders decided to allow only 300,000 Jews to survive in the General Governorate by the end of the year for forced labor. Winking sad smiley. 235. For the most part, only those working in armaments production were spared. 238. The majority of ghettos were liquidated in mass executions nearby, especially if they were not near a train station. Larger ghettos were more commonly liquidated during multiple deportations to extermination camps. 239, 237. During this campaign 1.5 million Polish Jews were murdered in the largest killing operation of the Holocaust. 240. In order to reduce resistance, the ghetto would be raided without warning, usually in the early morning, and the extent of the operation would be concealed as long as possible. 241. Trawniki men would cordon off the ghetto while the order police and security police carried out the action. 242. In addition to local non-Jewish collaborators, the Jewish councils and Jewish ghetto police were often ordered to assist with liquidation actions, although these Jews were in most cases murdered later. 243. Chaotic, capriciously executed selections determined who would be loaded onto the trains. Many Jews were shot during the action, often leaving ghettos strewn with corpses. Jewish forced laborers had to clean it up and collect any valuables from the victims. 241. A young boy surrounded by other unarmed civilians holds his hands over his head while a man in uniform points a submachine gun in his direction. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising became significant as a symbol of Jewish assistance against the Nazis. 243. The Warsaw Ghetto was cleared between the 22nd of July and 12 September. Of the original population of 350,000 Jews, 250,000 were killed at Treblinka, 11,000 were deported to labor camps. 10,000 were shot in the ghetto. 35,000 were allowed to remain in the ghetto after a final selection, and around 20,000 or 25,000 managed to hide in the ghetto. Misdirection efforts convinced many Jews that they could avoid deportation until it was too late. 244. During a 6-week period beginning in August, 300,000 Jews from Thradam district were sent to Treblinka. 245. 246. At the same time as the mass killing of Jews in the general governorate, Jews who were in ghettos to the west and east were targeted. Tens of thousands of Jews were deported from ghettos in Northgau and East Upper Silesia to Chelmo and Auschwitz. 247. 300,000 Jews, largely skilled laborers, were shot in Volhynia, Podolia, and southwestern Belarus. 248. 249. Deportations and mass executions in the Bialystok district and Galicia killed many Jews. 250. Although there was practically no resistance in the general governorate in 1942, some Soviet Jews improvised weapons, attacked those attempting to liquidate the ghetto, and set it on fire. 251. Lesotho uprisings were only undertaken when the inhabitants began to believe that their death was certain. 252. In 1943, larger uprisings in Warsaw, Bialystok, and Głubokaj necessitated the use of heavy weapons. 253. The uprising in Warsaw prompted the Nazi leadership to liquidate additional ghettos and labor camps in German-occupied Poland, with their inhabitants massacred, such as the Wola massacre, or deported to extermination camps for fear of additional Jewish resistance. Developing. 254. Nevertheless, in early 1944 more than 70,000 Jews were performing forced labor in the general governorate. 255. Deportations from elsewhere. Unlike the killing areas in the east, the deportation from elsewhere in Europe was centrally organized from Berlin, although it depended on the outcome of negotiations with Allied governments and popular responses to deportation. 201. Beginning in late 1941, local administrators responded to the deportation of Jews to the area by massacring local Jews in order to free up space in ghettos for the deportees. 256. If the deported Jews did not die of harsh conditions, they were killed later in extermination camps. 257. Jews deported to Auschwitz were initially entered into the camp. The practice of conducting selections and murdering many prisoners upon arrival began in July 1942. 258. In May and June, German and Slovak Jews deported to Lublin began to be sent directly to extermination camps. 258. A column of people marching with luggage. Jews are deported from Verburg, Germany to the Lublin district of the General Governorate. The 25th of April 1942. In Western Europe, almost all Jewish deaths occurred after deportation. 259. The occupiers often relied on local policemen, tourist Jews, limiting the number who were deported. 260. In 1942 nearly 100,000 Jews were deported from Belgium, France, and the Netherlands. 261. Only 25% of the Jews in France were killed. Winking sad smiley. 262. Most of them were either non-citizens or recent immigrants. 263. The death rate in the Netherlands was higher than neighboring countries, which scholars have attributed to difficulty in hiding or increased collaboration of the Dutch police. 264. The German government sought the deportation of Jews from Allied countries. 258. 265. The first to hand over its Jewish population was Slovakia, which arrested and deported about 58,000 Jews to Poland from March to October 1942. 266, 267, 268. The independent state of Croatia had already shot or killed in concentration camps. The majority of its Jewish population, along with a larger number of Serbs, 269, 270, and later deported several thousand Jews in 1942 and 1943. 271. Bulgaria deported 11,000 Jews from Bulgarian-occupied Greece and Yugoslavia, who were murdered at Treblinka, but declined to allow the deportation of Jews from its pre-war territory. 272. Romania and Hungary did not send any Jews, which were the largest surviving populations after 1942. 273. Prior to the German occupation of Italy in September 1943, there were no serious attempts to deport Italian Jews, and Italy refused to allow the deportation of Jews in many Italian-occupied areas. 274, 275. Nazi Germany did not attempt the destruction of the Finnish Jews. 276. And the North African Jews living under French or Italian rule. 277. Perpetrators and beneficiaries. Men and women in uniform smiling and posing with musical instruments. Auschwitz SS guards enjoying themselves on vacation in Solohaty. An estimated 200,000 to 250,000 Germans were directly involved in killing Jews, and if one includes all those involved in the organization of extermination, the number rises to 500,000. 278. Genocide required the active and tacit consent of millions of Germans and non-Germans. 279, 280. The motivation of Holocaust perpetrators varied and has led to historiographical debate. 279, 281. Studies of the SS officials who organized the Holocaust have found that most had strong ideological commitment to Nazism. 282, 283. In addition to ideological factors, many perpetrators were motivated by the prospect of material gain and social advancement. 284, 285, 286. German SS, police, and regular army units rarely had trouble finding enough men to shoot Jewish civilians, even though punishment for refusal was absent or light. 287, 288. Non-German perpetrators and collaborators included Dutch, French, and Polish policemen, Romanian soldiers, foreign SS, and police auxiliaries, Ukrainian insurgent army partisans, and some civilians. 279, 289, 290. Some were coerced into committing violence against Jews, but others killed for entertainment, material rewards, the possibility of better treatment from the occupiers, or ideological motivations such as nationalism and anti-communism. 291, 292, 293. According to historian Christian Jelak, non-Germans not under German command caused 5 to 6% of the Jewish deaths, and their involvement was crucial. In other ways. 294. Millions of Germans and others benefited from the genocide. 279. Corruption was rampant in the SS despite the proceeds of the Holocaust being designated as state property. 295. Different German state agencies vied to receive property stolen from Jews murdered at the death camps. 296. Many workers were able to obtain better jobs vacated by murdered Jews. 297. Businessmen benefited from eliminating their Jewish competitors or taking over Jewish-owned businesses. 298. Others took over housing and possessions that had belonged to Jews. 299. Some Poles living near the extermination camps later dug up human remains in search of valuables. 299. 300. The property of deported Jews was also appropriated by Germany's allies and collaborating governments. Even puppet states such as Vichy France and Norway were able to successfully lay claim to Jewish property. 301. In the decades after the war, Swiss banks became notorious for harboring gold deposited by